Hi, everybody. I'm Justin Kennington, president of the SDVOE Alliance. Today I'm here with Laurent Masia of NETGEAR. He is their director of product line management for managed switches and Pro AV. Hello, Laurent. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Justin, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and about NETGEAR?
Well, yeah, thank you. So, I'm Laurent. I handle this role for the product management for the managed switches and the Pro AV at NETGEAR. And NETGEAR is actually a leading provider of networking products that power businesses, both large and small. And our thing is really to bring confidence and high reliability without the cost and complexity from big IT. But of course, I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me that Netgear also, turns ideas into networking products for home, and that's true. We have a business unit for it, and it's all about focusing on the all things connected. And last but not least, Netgear is also dedicated to the service providers because we have tools and solutions to keep their residential customers or professional customers, business customers connected around the world. But individually, I'm a proud member of the commercial business unit at NETGEAR, where, of course, managed switches belong. And because the managed switches originally were engineered first for IT, right? Increasingly now, we engineer solutions more and more for the AV, the professional audiovisual world. And that's pretty much why, being the PLM for the managed switches, I'm also responsible now for this AV market.
Tell us a little bit about the path through history that got NETGEAR from an purely IT player to your position in Pro AV today. How did that take place?
Well, that's a well-kept secret, and I'm not so sure we want to disclose it today. But hey, let's go. I mean, that's nice. So I'm going to tell you the truth. It started a long time ago. It started in between 2012 and 2013 when absolutely the first time one of our technology partners, chipsets, componentry for the switches, came to us and said, guys, you should go and talk to this little startup somewhere in the middle of nothing in Canada, in Montreal, called back in the days Aptovision, because one day will come, these guys will, bring millions of Ethernet ports to the table with a brand new technology for AV over IP. And just not disclosing the exact go-to method, I'm pretty sure that these very large, important worldwide technology partners for switch chipsets, didn't tell that to Netgear only. He probably told that story to, all the networking vendors out there. And he actually addressed that message to a lot of people within Netgear. But believe it or not, um, I was the one picking up on this idea back in 2012, and I managed to, enter in contact with Aptovision in Montreal, which became later Semtech Aptovision, founding member of this SDVOE Alliance. And I am so grateful because it took Aptovision a long time to really educate me, explain to me what it was taking to invent a brand new technology to displace the old and complex transport methods that were used back in the days for AV transport. And I got rapidly in touch with many initial customers from Aptovision. ZeeVee is a good example. And very early, we noticed that the number of switches for 10 gig Ethernet that were procured for this application by these new partners went up quite nicely. And we developed a lot of relationships early with this nice ecosystem, and we actually started to understand how hard and cumbersome this was on the switching side to do a reliable and good job. And that's the story behind it. And now, probably on your side, no question anymore why all of a sudden, many, many years later, NETGEAR was extremely happy and honored to co-found the SDVOE Alliance with Semtech Aptovision, ZeeVee, Christie, and all these great members.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have to say there must be some here in Montreal that would take offense to your characterizing it as the middle of nowhere Canada. But fortunately,
that was
I'm not one of. It's
that was
fine
a
with
joke.
me.
I reside in Paris, so don't bother.
I understand. I understand. You touched on, in fact, that part of your path to getting here was becoming a founding member of the SDVOE Alliance. I didn't even know that your history here goes all the way back to 2012, in those very early days. That's very interesting. So so take us back to late 2016, 2017, when things were picking up steam for AV over IP and for the idea that became SDVOE. What drove you at that time to want to join in as a founding member of the SDVOE Alliance?
Well, that's a very good question, and I'm afraid it's going to take a long time for me to answer that question. So let's prioritize. Okay, I think three main things originally, and I'm not going to lie to you, Justin. First, we really felt that we were uncovering a huge, gigantic new market, a new application for our products. And running a business, it's not a charity. Originally, we are all here to develop, our activity and realize growth quarter after quarter, year after year. And so this was the primary first reason. We understood that a revolution was about to happen in 2016-17 timeframe. We understood that a tremendous number of HD-based ports were going to convert, migrate to Ethernet for video distribution. Things were done already for audio back in the days with the old AVB and other, since then Dante AS67 variants. So that was a done deal, very fragmented market across the board in the IT world for switching. But for video, precisely, we identified a major opportunity. And that was probably the primary reason. But the second reason, we believed in the SDVOE technology. We were a firm believer, and that was, also justifying a quite important investment in terms of resources and just funding this alliance with the other founders. Really, we understood that, well, the convergence happened in the past in many applications. Think about telephony and video surveillance. Audio, of course, before, but video did not. And the reason was, probably because HD-based was reliable, very good quality, zero latency, perfect, and absolutely, prevalent in a number, millions of installations every year. And we understood that the SDVOE technology was the only one capable, just claiming we are capable of displacing the old matrix, because our technology, first, is not proprietary. That's an ecosystem with interoperability amongst several members. And back in the days, we were maybe 10 to 15. Now we are more than 50 members together sharing the same technology. And it is providing our customers the very same perfect quality and zero frame latency than HD-based before, with the maximum cost and complexity associated. So we were firm believers. So great opportunity. And second, we understood that SDVOE technology was the right one to displace this HD-based switcher and really make the first reason happen. And third, I spoke about it a little bit quickly, but the interoperability to us was a very important matter. because we understood that if no major technology was going to, embrace this transition and displace HD-based T, well, the result was going to be the wild, wild west with literally dozens, if not hundreds, of very diverse proprietary other codec technologies with zero interoperability. And we are IT people originally. I do switching for almost 30 years now. And we in this IT world are under drugs, with the IEEE and the other big agencies ruling standards, making sure that a Netgear can work with the Cisco, can work with Arista, and so on and so on. So for us, interoperability, an ecosystem of members sharing the same technology with a reliable and perfect hardware with an API from a software standpoint, allowing for mixed control and operation was unbelievable, was a unique opportunity to establish ourselves as maybe not the leader, I don't like this term, but really the facilitator, because for us, working with you, Semtech Aptovision, working with Christy and ZeeVee, the other founding members, and the entire ecosystem was meaning something. It was meaning that we were going to be able to help facilitate that transition with reliable and perfectly designed switching solutions. So three major reasons. I told you it was going to be very long and fastidious. Sorry.
You touched on something really important that I want to dig in a little more. You talked about your relationships working with the other founding members. I know you've also done work with our newest steering members, Black Box and IDK, and many others in the Alliance. One of the benefits that I try to explain to potential new members of the Alliance is the partnerships that form. And I have to say that more than anyone, NETGEAR have taken advantage of partnering with other members on technology and on installations and system designs in order to succeed in the market. Can you tell me why has NETGEAR been such an advocate of working with other members in the Alliance?
Well, I mean, thank you. I mean, this is because of the three reasons why we came in. We want to see this activity growing. We want to make it a very important major market for us. We want to also win by facilitating it. So let me tell you something. Um, uh, IT networks, it's not easy. I mean, that would be a lie, okay? If you are a Navy professional, you don't speak DSCP or IGMP natively, right? You do AV. IT by definition is complex, and even though it's under standards, those standards are anything but easy to use. So we Netgear on the market, we don't compete with the enterprise or cloud or data center vendors. That's not what we do. We really focus on a specific small and mid-size business in terms of commercial applications, and winning with, of course, cost, competitiveness, but also reliability, high quality, and ease of installation, ease of use. And those rang a bell because, back to your questions, these other manufacturers, let's call them manufacturers, partners, um, uh, exactly the same as most of the Netgear small and medium-sized business organizations, they didn't speak much IT. They were needing not only a good hardware solution with a good software solution, but on top of everything else, it's not only about hardware and software. You can find hardware and software in, literally at millions of different places in this world when it comes to a simple Ethernet switch. A switch is a switch, right? the most important thing on top of hardware and software is the service and the support. And in fact, our values coming from the SMB space, making NETGEAR, fortunately, very successful against those giant, big uh, 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 enterprise vendors. Um, our values applied and resonated greatly with those initial partners, and it keeps going on this way. So we never changed ourselves. In fact, we just, brought NETGEAR to these partners, and just saying, we of course we spent a lot of time designing new switches with the right ports, the right form factors, the right software, the right enhancements. Maybe we'll talk about that. But more importantly, what we have done, we came to these manufacturers and said, look, you're not an IT specialist, okay? And that's probably not your job. Let us handle this for you. We can be the network fabric for you. We can be the network factory for you. And let us handle this. We can provide to you with the right support. And it's not only troubleshooting tech support, it's absolutely essentially, design, help for, imagining and planning and designing a network for video over IP. So that's what we have done. And of course, it was easy in the early days. But now that we have this large and growing ecosystem, we for sure had to structure a little bit better ourselves. So, of course, we are a business unit, a commercial business unit, but inside this large BU with operations, finance, tech support, sales, engineering, we build a mini business unit, but across the world with a lot of functions, I can tell you, in order to be able to continue to do that, not only with a few key partners, but literally dozens and dozens of SDVOE partners. And we like it because it's working. And ultimately, collectively, we help make this ecosystem and SDVOE solution as reliable as possible with the absolutely great results for customers.
I think it's I think it's unrealistic to think that any one company could serve every possible need of a system designer or integrator or even AV end customer. And I think that's why these partnerships that you've formed are so valuable, right? It allows NETGEAR to focus on NETGEAR's strengths and the other partners to focus on their strengths and bring something greater to the customer. That's really good. You you're in sort of an interesting position as an IT supplier in an AV world. You talked about the value of interoperability, the value of standardizations. I want to touch on the what do I want to say, the challenges of those things for a manufacturer, right? That is that it, to some degree, interoperability and standards constrain you and mean that you have to conform to those things and yet still find ways to differentiate your company and your products. And you just talked about a lot of ways that NETGEAR's differentiated from a business and company perspective, right? The way that you can support and interact with the small and medium scale operations in AV and not just enterprise class customers only. Let's talk about the ways that you still differentiate your products, right? It's key to SDVOE. This is one of your challenges. Key to SDVOE that the technology can work on any Ethernet switch from any manufacturer, right? We're not specialized to one particular make or model. So how do you still differentiate your products and your technology while maintaining all those great things about interoperability and standards and openness?
Well, absolutely. And again, I want to make it very clear for everyone. I mean, we are doing today this to really explain what it is. And you're right, SDVOE by definition can work on any standard Ethernet switch. And I said it, at the end of the day, a switch is a switch, right? So to answer your question, I can tell you it is keeping us extremely busy for many, many years. So maybe it's not the right place nor the right forum to start my big favorite topic. What is multicast and why and how it's working? So I'm not going to do that.
But it's worth pointing out that you can hear Laurent talk about that by logging into the SDVOE Academy.
Absolutely. But, well, SDVOE has no choice as a technology. It has to leverage the only one transport mechanism or method on Ethernet networks to deploy one video out to many recipients in a network. And it's called multicast. And luckily, multicast was already invented, at the very beginning of Ethernet, even before SDVOE was live to the market. But multicast is a beast. And the way NETGEAR differentiates really nicely for years, and I can probably say still today, and for the years to come, when I see, other possibilities and all these millions of other switches, including in NETGEAR, but also outside of NETGEAR, how hard it is to provide the right fabric for AV over IP and for SDVOE. So let me explain that real quick. Putting up a system, firing up a few transmitters and receivers and code decoders with a management platform, a management system on one little switch, 2, 3, 4, 5 TXs, 2, 3, 4, 5 RXs, and the management platform, it's relatively easy, okay? On a single switch, it's always been easy. But as soon as you have multiple switches, because your installation is not only a 2x2 or a 4x4, but it might be bigger control and center, or any possible other applications
Behind you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This one, right? It's in Tokyo. It's not live, but it's only a few day old. Massive 360 by 360 live test. Um, well, when it comes to multi-switch, multicast is a beast because multicast forces IT admins to use something else than the good old well-known IGMP. And IGMP is good on one switch, but is deficient from one switch to the other. Either you let the entire multicast go and you're flooding the entire network, or you're restricting it, but then you cannot have receivers connecting to decoders between switches. So we solved that at NETGEAR because we enhanced IGMP so that we just tell our customers, don't go by the book with the Cisco Academy. Go to the NETGEAR Academy and the SDVOE Academy instead. You will learn that multicast routing, PIM, rendezvous points, SM, SSM, all these acronyms are so complex, so cumbersome. They might have a use in the enterprise for other types of applications, but it's overkill for AV over IP. Better to stick with what is really well known, documented, reliable, easy to operate IGMP. So we originally solved this scaling issue with stacking. And when we went live in 2016-17 timeframe, being honored to be a founding member of SDVOE, we brought to the table a newly introduced M4300 switch platforms that could stack so that the switches could be assembled in matrix or star topologies to scale. But of course, you can stack dozens or hundreds of switches, because stacking remains like something fixed, and the manager, the controller of the stack would die under a certain load with too many switches. So we got to think about it, and we worked tremendously for years. And last year, basically at Infocom, we uh, came live with the enhanced IGMP. That is Netgear only, that's true, but still quite open, so it can interoperate with other manufacturers, switch vendors. And IGMP Plus, let's say, fixes the deficiencies that IGMP came, with 20 years ago. So now the Netgear IGMP Plus let our customers and the SDVOE members, system designers, and installers, connect all these switches together in those large racks, and they don't care anymore. They don't pay attention anymore to the IGMP subtleties in between switches. This is fully automated. So, well, the simple answer to your question is really about, well, while most of the other, let's say, IT or enterprise vendors out there wants to ignore on purpose because somehow, they like it when it's very complex. It brings services, it brings licensing, it brings service contracts, it brings a lot of cost so potential revenue for them, but in reality they don't really focus as we speak in the AV world. They probably prefer the prestige and the bells and whistles from broadcast and SMPTE and all that. But in this pro AV world, Netgear differentiates with an enhanced operation so that we remove the complexity out of the networking fabric, and we really want to offer plug and play operation from day one on a single switch to day two on a stack of switches, and today and for years to come across very simple automated link aggregations between switches. And this, you can't find that outside of Netgear.
Wow. Wow, interesting stuff. Well, Laurent, I think we've covered everything that I wanted to touch on today. Is there anything else on your mind we should make sure and share?
Um, well, Maybe if I can profit from this occasion to, just say, well, we talk about hardware and software, and that's good. We said that service and support was extremely important. So let me first say that we have now within the SDVOE Alliance a design center program so that any customer, not only manufacturers, but also contractors or consultants or end users may come to the SDVOE Alliance and say, well, I have a project, but I don't really know where to start. And especially when it comes, maybe as far as Netgear is concerned, starts from the network, but also potentially with any other layers of this application. So Netgear is extremely happy, proud, honored, to help on that program. And I promise that any requests coming to the SDVOE Alliance will be managed correctly with resources dedicated to that. So that's my first point. But my second point is that, well, maybe I could add that we are trying, to keep up because you just said it. I mean, we need to continue. We need to facilitate operations for AV over IP. So we lately are doing two things that maybe I want to share with you now. First, we opened the Netgear M43 and M4500 switch platforms so that in addition to, for sure doing switching and multicast and IGMP, they can also run third-party applications now. So, for instance, it is removing the need, for a dedicated hardware controller box running maybe the SDVOE API or the manufacturer design or management platform, to detect the transmitters, the receivers, and do the AV matrix. So this now can run on the switches, and it is actually removing, guess what, a single point of failure out of the networks. And also, as far as I know, but maybe you'll tell me better, there was no such hardware controller with HD-based-T, the intelligence was in the switcher, right? So now we can also run these applications on the switches so that the switchers can do it as well. And it's not easy. It is actually a big job because all that is Linux, of course, but still, the switch takes a big share, of the Linux capacities, CPU, memory, but we are working actively with many, if not all, our partners in the SDVOE Alliance to make it happen. So this is happening. Second, we have worked towards a public exposed API, RESTful API as well, because we didn't have it. We just didn't at NETGEAR. And it is quite useful, maybe not for manufacturers if they are running their application directly on the switches, but their customers, think of a large system integrator with a management platform of some sort, with an API exposed on the switches, then the switches can be considered as their own, equipment. And they can actually manage, configure, troubleshoot, maintain switches easy. If you compare that with the legacy methods that are, out of band or CLI or SSH. So as you can see, it goes even beyond the switching activity, turning the switches into servers capable of exposing their API to the outside or running SDVOE related applications. We don't want to do encode decode, don't get me wrong. We don't want to do that. We want to remain the fabric, the network foundation of it. But running additional services on the switches and exposing an API that will be very easy to use by the AV manufacturer customers, really participates in this effort. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys.
A vision of sort of AV as a network service then.
Absolutely. But, I don't think we'll come with licensing. This is, probably one of the best reasons why SDVOE customers, at the end of the day, they come back to NETGEAR every time. Sometimes some customers may say, oh no, we're a Cisco shop. We are not going to put a NETGEAR in there. See, this is all Cisco. But, when you think of it, if you have to pay for additional licensing price, usually the same pretty much price of the switch on top to do advanced IGMP or multicasting, plus the support, plus all that, at least with NETGEAR, there's no hidden fees because it's just the switch. It's in there and it comes with everything. So, I will not make it obvious, but we don't plan for adding costs nor complexity. That should remain pretty easy going forward. Yeah.
One more way NETGEAR is unique.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, Laurent. This was a wide-ranging and interesting conversation. I hope our viewers enjoy watching.
Hey, Mr. President, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much.